They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different outcome. Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 6 is the definition of refinement and evolution instead of revolution. A product that does exactly what Samsung wanted the original model to do, but has Samsung's stubbornness and lack of movement in its hardware actually impeded its progress in the foldable space? Let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and I know you're just begging to drop $2 on a smartphone. We all are. But all jokes aside, the Z Fold 6 is like a Q car. It's a BMW 535D, uber fast, world-moving torque, but it looks smart and subtle instead of the souped-up demon that the M5 is. For a phone as exciting as a foldable, its design is very tame, and I'm not really sure how to feel about that. See, its competition from reputable manufacturers like OnePlus, got to get that name in there early, Google, Xiaomi, Vivo and Huawei have all done something a little bit different and have dared to look a bit wacky and include interesting and powerful hardware. The Fold 6 is a refined but underwhelming design, but that doesn't mean it's a bad one. After all, it has IP48 water and dust resistance, which is something that we've been asking for on foldables for some time, and as dull as it might look, I am a big fan of the squared off corners, although I was massively against rounding the corners in the first place, but there you go. It has a hinge that, while not sounding particularly satisfying, does feel incredibly robust and solid, addressing the concerns that we had about squeaky hinges in those early foldables. In performance, in battery life, display tech and software, there really isn't that much to complain about with the Z Fold 6. It uses the latest generation flagship processor and 12GB of RAM, which it absolutely should do for the amount of money that it costs. It plays games, it multitasks, it does all the things that you would really expect from a flagship smartphone, without slowing down thanks to its fast UFS 4 storage in 256, 512 and 1TB models. And whether you choose to use that cover display or the massive internal foldable panel, the screen experience is wonderful thanks to the use of big, bright 120Hz LTPO OLED screens. If you're a keen mobile gamer, there is no better experience to playing on a large, fluid display like this. It might not be the very best internal display, but it's up there and it's a joy to play on. Or watch videos if you like, although the letterboxing is quite insane at this form factor, but that's definitely not the Fold's fault itself. My Z Fold 6 has never failed to deliver a full day of battery life for me, which is surprising given it's only a 4400 mAh battery and it's got a massive internal screen. It's one of those things that thankfully just never had to think about it because it just lasts all day. Now, I'm not the world's biggest super user of their phone. I mostly scroll socials, I binge Wikipedia like nobody's business, especially on that big screen, and research things for video projects on my phone. I'm not a big mobile gamer, I never watch like entire films on my device, so a day of battery life to me might be 2/3 of a day for you. But I'm confident that all but the most hardcore of users will get a full day's use out of the Fold 6 with no dramas. And Samsung has put a lot of effort into making sure that you know that it's serious about software. This thing will get Android updates until 2031, just like its non-folding phones. This is really great and will mean that you shouldn't run into any app compatibility problems with your device for an awfully long time. Not to mention the smorgasbord of Galaxy AI features to keep you entertained, from the browsing assist for summarizing web pages, to sketch to image that can recreate photos or drawings in AI art if you're into that. There's Samsung's easy to access interpreter for on-the-fly translation, and then stuff like instant slow-mo, object remover, that kind of thing. Now it's up to you whether you want to use them or not. I'm personally not an AI guy, but that doesn't matter because Samsung has bolstered its software package to aim to compete with the likes of Google. And I say aim because my colleague Will Sattelberg put it really well. Galaxy AI's new tools fail to amount to much more than basic party tricks. But to its own detriment, Samsung has refused to innovate in a couple of key areas where competitors have dared to do different, and I'll explain what I mean. First up is the longer candy bar style phone. It makes for a screen that is slightly less usable, IMO, and others have gone with more standard form factors for their foldables. This isn't the end of the world, and there will be people out there who do like this and prefer this, so that's fair enough, but it's something that Samsung has stuck to. There's the firm's stubborn and quite frankly stupid decision to repeatedly include a subpar dog egg 4 megapixel under display selfie camera, which should realistically just be a standard shooter up in the corner like the competition. Then there's the charging speeds. Guys, this is a smallish battery and a $1,900 phone. Why are we still using 2018's charging tech? 25 watt wired and 15 watt wireless. Come on. The internal panel's crease is also massively noticeable, especially compared to the OnePlus Open that I have here. It looks obvious, and it feels even more obvious when scrolling around or swiping on the display. It seems sort of out of place when you consider just how polished and streamlined the rest of the hardware is. And that price, it's $100 more than last year. It doesn't seem to do heaps more than the previous model, and you still have to not only buy the S Pen separately, but the charger as well. That is criminal. The camera setup hasn't changed from last year at all, which isn't the worst thing ever, but this is not even close to being the best camera cluster on a foldable. And for $1,900, I'm just not sure I'm okay with that. Okay, the photos and videos this camera can produce look really good. The 50 megapixel main sensor is a decent little unit, and the 3x tele is also very useful. I just wish it was a 5x. That's just me though. The main 3 cameras on the back are capable in all kinds of lighting conditions. They do the Samsung thing of bringing up the saturation, the vibrance, and perhaps a little bit of contrast, which you'll either love or you won't. I quite like how they pop on social media, but when you put it on a bigger screen, it starts to break down a little bit. It's certainly not a bad camera by any stretch of the imagination, but it isn't on the level of the Galaxy S23 Ultra or S24 Ultra. And the selfies, whilst pretty decent from the cover screen's camera, are rubbish from the internal selfie camera. I think the idea is you just use this one for like Zoom calls and stuff, but I think the rubbish under display camera setup needs trashing, because a phone that costs as much as a good gaming computer or a cheap used car shouldn't have a selfie camera that looks like this. As nice as this phone feels in the hand, as refined as the company has managed to make it, I can't help but feel underwhelmed by the Galaxy Z Fold 6. A lot of the new stuff here is AI fluff, and my personal take on this is that companies are just using these AI features to make their new phones look better than they actually are. When you look at what OnePlus did, smashing it out of the park with the debut Open, with less of a crease, better anti-glare coating, and way better cameras. When you look at what Vivo is doing right now with its X Fold 3 Pro's unreal hardware package, when you look at Honor with its crazy thin Magic V3, these guys are doing things differently, and they're taking steps to improve hardware and software and really change foldables as a whole. Samsung's first few phones really gave the company the lead in the foldable space, but its stubbornness has cost the company, and the competition is now firmly ahead. The Fold 6 feels like the same concept, but in a new suit and tie. Some gimmicky new software tricks packed in for an extra $100. I'm not sold on it at all. But what about you? Would you spend $1,900 on this thing? Let me know in the comments, and while you're down there, be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed today's content, and subscribe to never miss another upload. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.